This program is a production of Devil's Mark Ministries, LLC. If you would like more information on Devil's Mark Ministries, please go to devilsmarkministries.org.
This program is part of the Devil's Mark Podcast Network, the official podcast network of Shadow Path Diabolism.
Nero and the Pig, with R.J. Womack and a pig.
Hi, everybody. This is Nero.
And this is the pig. And this is Nero and the Pig.
Hey, pig. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. Not too bad. How are you, Nero?
I'm okay. It's been a long time since we've done this. I'm sure people thought we would just disappear and not do this anymore. It's been so long, but we've kind of all had kind of stuff going on with the COVID-19 stuff. We're all a bit distracted and just a little.
A little all over the place, but we're here. We're here all the same. So, yeah.
Yes. So you want to tell people what we're going to be reviewing today? We're going to be doing a review on, what is it?
We're going to do a review of a film which came out in 2016 called A Dark Song, which has an occult theme to it.
Yeah, and it's a really cool film. But if you haven't seen it and you don't want to know anything about it, spoiler alert, the next few minutes are going to ruin your day.
Yeah, and I really, honestly, I'd say it's really worth watching if you're interested in this kind of thing. So if you haven't seen it, go and see it, then come back. Unless you just love us, in which case we can handle that too. But yeah.
Yeah, we do recommend you watch it first because it might not be as entertaining to watch after we talk about it.
No,
but it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, I mean it is. I have to say, this is a film which I really liked, and I went and bought the DVD. Actually, I liked it so much, I mean, and it's sort of. It really meant something to me, actually. I thought it was a very unique film. Yeah. Shall I give a little rundown about what it was?
Yeah, go ahead and give a little synopsis of what it's all about.
Yeah. Now, basically, this is a film which came out in 2016. It's directed by Liam Gavin, who also did The Haunting of Bly Manor in 2020. And there are two main characters in it. There's one character called Joseph Solomon, who is a magician, and he's played by Steve Oram, who is a British actor and comedian. And the other main character is called Sophia, and she's played by Catherine Walker, who is an Irish actress, and they're both really excellent, actually. The story essentially is that there's a woman, she employs a magician to do a ritual with her, which will be attaining the knowledge and conversation of a holy guardian angel, basically the Abramelin ritual. And it's the story of what they go through, essentially. And so as the story unfolds, you find out more about them, more about both of them, and their relationship develops throughout. But there's a lot of stuff really in there which actually says quite a lot, I think, about magic and about, teacher-student relationships and things as well. And I think it's a really, really interesting film. I mean, how did you find it?
Yeah, I found it really interesting. I thought it was very unique in the sense that it's not a film you see very much like anymore. It's like, I mean, it was a true occult film. It was a film that if you weren't an occultist, you probably wouldn't get it. I really kind of felt like that. I kind of felt like it would be a weird film, and you wouldn't understand what it was all about.
No,
I mean, you'd get the general gist of it, but you wouldn't fully grasp it the way we would.
No,
I don't think. And so it was really, truly an occultist film, I think.
I agree. And there were so many bits of it that really rang true somehow, They really rang true. I mean, there was parts of it, I thought, whoever did the screenplay for this, either they're occultists or they know occultists,
Yeah, well, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. And I was like, there's no way this person either hasn't studied the occult or researched it really well or isn't involved in it.
Even some of the sort of like the things that Solomon comes out with. And Solomon is a really fascinating character because he's so irascible and he's such a flawed character, but so interesting at the same time, a very sincere character. And there's one point he's saying, you look, you got to understand, this is real magic. We're dealing with real angels, real demons, blah blah blah. And he says, you'll go on the internet, you'll find people who say, oh, it's all in the mind, it's all archetypes, it's all this and that. And he just says, psychobabble bollocks. And I just thought, I've heard that conversation so many times.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. So finally, somebody actually took our point of view on it. The people
Yeah.
that are kind of religious, and I was like, wow, that's kind of fascinating.
No, it was, but he was. I liked his character very much. Actually, he was a very interesting character, and I liked the fact that he was so flawed as well. As a character.
Yeah, I mean, I think that rings true of occultists too, because we all know that occultists in general are very, we're unique individuals, shall we say? We're very,
Yeah.
To say that we're a little bit on the freakish side would be an understatement.
Yeah.
We are eccentric individuals, and he definitely expressed that kind of energy in that character, and I thought he did a fantastic job. And in fact, I wanted to ask you a question about him. What else has he been in? Because, I mean, I'm sure you're more familiar with him than I am, obviously. Because he certainly looks very familiar to me.
I looked him up and I saw some things on YouTube. He's been in a number of films, and some of them are obviously a comedy because he's a comedian too. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
He's actually a stand-up comedian, and I mean the thing is, so he's
that was the incredible thing, because it was a dramatic role and it was really powerful.
He was very good, wasn't he? I mean, his acting ability is really good. It was
and to know that he's primarily a comedian just fascinates me.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I just know he looks familiar, and he just did a really good job. And I think he portrayed the occultist pretty good. I think he really did, because it's like most of us are that kind of touchy. We're kind of we can. What's the word I'm looking for? We can kind of be a little bit irritable and a little bit short-tempered, and that's true of all occultists that I know.
Yeah, and a bit messed up, basically,
Yeah, well, that's true too.
In a nice way, but we're kind of like it. But also there was a lot in it that seemed very true to occultism in a sense. It's that sense that this isn't just like a preset thing, like you go through it as if you were doing a university course and you get the result. Things go off in different directions, and things manifest in different ways, and you have to deal with yourself. You have to deal with whatever's manifesting, and it's not straightforward, because the thing is, if you're doing magic changes you as it changes the world. So and it brings up things in people, and you really saw that.
Yeah, the one thing that I was really fascinated by is he was like, you have to tell the truth. You have to be honest about your intentions. They don't have to be good intentions. They just have to be honest.
Yes, absolutely. That sense that I don't need you to be moral. I don't need you to be virtuous. I just need you to be truthful. That really rang true,
Yeah, we've talked about that with the hoodoo spirits in our personal conversations, and with the demons. That's how we've found them to be. They're not really worried about morality. They're worried about, will you tell me the truth? Will you be real? Will you come to me with honesty and tell me what your true motivations are? Yeah, and if you're not, you get fucked up. You tend to get fucked up eventually.
And that's what, and in fact, that really is the recurring theme throughout the entire thing. It's basically because there's a series of lies that Sophia tells him, which he senses them, and he pushes her. And until she tells him the truth, there are a series of lies that she tells, which is partly her trying to fool him at times, but it's also her trying to sometimes deny things to herself as well.
Right, and you want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, like the lies she's telling. She's trying to act as if it's just this. First, she tells him that it's a love thing, like she's in a relationship with somebody. Like, so you want to talk a little bit about the lies he's telling, she's telling him.
Yeah. The first lie she tells basically is when she's negotiating with him to start. So this is before they've actually agreed to do the actual operation. But the first lie is that it's for love, and she really loves somebody, and she wants to get their love. And he just basically walks out, walks out into the garden, has a cigarette. She said, "Well, can we do it?" He says, "Nope, nope, nope, not doing it, not at all." And so she takes him back to the station, and then finally she says, "My son died. I want to talk to my son again." And then he's like, "Okay, that could be worth getting up in the morning for," sort of thing. And so he comes back and does that. So they go on that basis. And the funny thing is, the lying thing comes through again, like when he's talking to her in the garden before they start the ritual, and she says, and he's doing something with a knife, like whittling a twig or something, yeah. And she says something about learning German, and he cuts his finger, and he says, "Did you just lie?" And she says, "No, I knew it." But I guess the thing is that she didn't know German properly, and he just says, "Well, it's okay. You can tell me. You just have to be honest with me." So that's the first thing. You see, there's this thing about damage and lies, yeah. And he even says to her, "You've got to understand, everything has consequences in this. You have to be honest. Everything has consequences." So that's
Right.
almost like an indicator.
I think that's an important thing. It's like everything you do in magic has consequences. Everything you do in spirituality has consequences. I mean, it's not so much like the Wiccan thing where it's like everything you do comes back to you tenfold or sevenfold. It's not so much that.
No.
It's that everything that you do impacts your life. We talk about that in our tradition, the diabolism, shadow path diabolism, the Orlog sort of thing.
Yes.
Everything weighs up and affects everything else. There's cause and effect type thing in everything that you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that was one thing. Yeah. And then the next lie, though, is when she actually says, and she actually admits that it's not actually to talk to her son. She actually wants revenge for his death. Yeah. And that's the next lie she tells. Yeah. And that again is really, and again, he's had to push her. He sensed that something is not right. And you can see, it's like he works instinctively, and he pushes her, and they have a real fight. And you kind of think he's being over the top, but then it turns out that actually she's told him the wrong thing. She wants revenge. Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh my God, you're doing this for me, aren't you? This isn't how you can't do this. You've got to actually be completely honest. You can't do this." And you can see it's like he's like really like almost scared, if you know what I mean, because he's saying, you just cannot do this. You can't play about with this. And she says, "Well, look, we can just." At some point, she says, "Look, we can just leave. We can just finish it." And he says, "No, we've started it now. We can't leave this until it's done. Until the invocation is done, we cannot leave. Otherwise, we'll be stuck here forever." And you can see in his eyes, he's absolutely deadly serious. Yeah?
Yeah.
We have to follow this thing to the letter. Otherwise, we are in a real mess. You don't understand. And you can see that sincerity. He's scared. And he's like trying to...
The interesting thing is that has some correlations to real occultism, because some people have made the argument that one of the reasons why Crowley had some bad luck in his life was because he didn't finish the Abramelin ritual properly. He stopped it in the middle. Remember that?
Yes.
And people have suggested that maybe that might be part of why he had some misfortune, because he didn't finish it properly. I know I've heard that argument before. So that's kind of the idea here, is that once you start the ritual, the idea of the real ritual, the Abramelin, is that you stay in that state until the ritual's done. And it might be 6-8 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, but it might be months. Yeah. And you're supposed to prepare for it. And people that do actually try to do it, they take off from work and they save up their vacation and they take 6 months off or whatever. And they prepare and they have assistants, and it's a serious ritual for people that take it seriously. And so that was the idea that they were trying to get across in the film. And she doesn't take it seriously at all.
No, no. You can see it's funny because it's the meeting of two worlds, and you can tell that she's receptive to it, but she's still partly stuck in this other thing because also she's cutting herself off from her own feelings as well. She's cutting herself off from something in herself, and doing this ritual is breaking through all of that. Yeah, like. But the thing is, every time she tells a lie, he goes through a thing where he has to rectify it, you know. So after one set of lies, she has to drink his blood, you know, or what have you, you know, and she does all
Well,
this
yeah,
stuff.
because she says, "I don't forgive."
Yeah, that's
I
right.
don't forgive.
Which of course it ends up being very significant. But she says, "I just don't do forgiveness. I don't do forgiveness," and obviously that's part of the actual preparation for the ritual, part of this sort of purification or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's got very Christian ideas, like the Abramelin ritual itself does.
Which of course it would do because it's ritual magic of that sort. So yes, there would be that sort of thing to it.
Yeah,
And but what I really loved about this was that it allowed the Solomon character to be eccentric and sort of and domineering and all these things, but all those things ring true because like if you look at any sort of like, you know, master student relationship traditionally, you know, it doesn't matter if you're looking at sort of like certain magical things or if you're looking at Zen Buddhism or what have you, the master is very severe. Yeah, the student has to just get with it, and their ego and their dignity and all those things, that doesn't count for anything, you know. So all the things that she brings in with her, and there's at one point she kind of says, you know what, you should just remember who's paying you for this. And he's like, what did you say? Because of course, and then she kind of backs down. She says, okay, you know. But he's because she has those things come up which are like sort of like, excuse me, do you know who I am, almost, you know? And it's like, and his answer is, you're nobody, you know. Basically.
No, I mean but the funny thing about that is, again, that's another one of those things that rings true in occultism. One of the problems that we have in occultism today is that everybody thinks they're a fucking master.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks they're a guru. Everybody thinks they're fucking the bee's knees, as they say in England. You know.
Yeah.
They think they know shit they don't know. They act like they're, you know, they have all this knowledge, and yet some of them haven't even been practicing for a year, and they'll act like, well, I'm the high priest of this, and I'm the grand master of this. And I'm like, dude, that's part of the problem. Nobody's just whooped your ass and made you actually serve anybody or do any kind of self-discipline or treated you to any kind of hierarchical system where you had to actually show respect to a mentor. You've never been a part of any real occult tradition ever, and you could tell.
Yeah.
Because they have no respect for anything, and that's part of the problem. And I think that film, in a weird way, addresses that ego thing, that whole arrogance thing.
Very much. Very much. I thought it did it very beautifully as well, I thought it did it very, very well. You know, it did it very well, and it showed you that there's times when the teacher is going to seem like they're crazy, and you just accept it. Yeah, it's that's the truth of the matter. And you know, and people say, but well, isn't there a potential for abuse there? It's like, yeah, of course there is.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's like, yeah.
It's like, yeah, of course there is.
It's like the Shaolin monks. They beat you when you don't do your exercises correctly with wooden canes.
Yeah,
they beat the shit out of you.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's like they don't understand what the stakes are. The stakes are spiritual, and that completely overrides all these other considerations. If that's what you want, yeah.
That's the other clear thing. If you go into an initiatory school, right, and you really believe in that initiatory school, and this person is legit, I mean, you don't know. I mean, because they have students, they have people, they have a history, they have a tradition.
Yeah.
And you follow that tradition the way they ask you to. If you don't want to be a part of that tradition or do those ceremonies, then don't do them.
Yeah. But you can't go along there.
Nobody's forcing you to be there.
You can't go along there and then import the outside world into the tradition, if you see what I mean. You know?
Yeah, I know. See, that's what I've always said to people that I talk to in my podcast. I've always said, you go into a tradition, you accept the tradition, you accept the Coven's traditions or the religious tradition, or you don't be a part of it. You don't go in there and try to change everything. If you don't agree with something, you shouldn't be there in the first place.
No,
That's it.
no, 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 absolutely.
If you see something wrong, then you leave. But I think that's the important thing. And he keeps asking her, "You sure you want to do this? You sure you want to do this? You sure?" He asked her like 3 times
Yeah,
throughout the movie. Are
yeah,
you sure?
yeah.
And even when he was pouring the salt around her, or whatever he was pouring, was it salt? Was it?
What, around the house?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It might have been salt, or it might have just been something else. I mean, salt would have really messed up the ground, but like, he obviously. I don't know what it was, to be
Yeah,
truthful.
but anyway, but even before he sealed the circle, he was like, "Are you sure? Because
Yes,
once I sealed this, that's it."
and that was a good point as well, because at that point, she sort of says, "Yes, do it," and you can say he turns around, you can see him smile. It's like, okay, we're on. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And that becomes significant in the film as well, in which point that I want to bring up that I didn't like about the film.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Do you have anything you want to add to that part?
I'm not sure about anything more to that bit. I mean, only that you really see that it really does illustrate something about the guy and his sincerity, and that he is actually the real thing, if you see what I mean, and that comes through very much throughout the entire thing. But I love the way he's the real thing, and also he's flawed, if you see what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was important. That was important to see that. But it was really lovely. I loved all those things, and those. Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the things that we didn't like about the characters and some of the issues. Like, one of the things that I really didn't like about her was that she didn't, first of all, she didn't seem to take it that seriously. She actually broke the ritual in the end because she actually passed the barrier. And that's when all kinds of bad things happened, and she still got what she wanted. And that's one of the issues I have with the film. She broke all of the rules of the ritual, and she still got her conversation with her holy guardian angel,
Yeah.
which to me is just kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, because it just seemed like she didn't give a shit about the ritual. She didn't really care about keeping the rules, and she broke everything and still got what she wanted.
I'm not sure really. I mean, the thing is, I just kind of like accepted it as within the film, But also, it's like she breaks the circle, but she can't escape. Yeah, that's the other
Yeah.
thing. So she has to come back anyway, and so she breaks it, but she has to continue, even though she knows that she's really messed up now. She's really fucked, basically, at that point.
Yeah.
Because of things that have happened, yeah. Again, to do with and again the thing of lying and injury and still comes through the things as well.
I mean, he one of the scenes in there, he had to repurify her by actually drowning her
Yes,
and then resuscitating her because she had fucked up so much.
yes, yes.
In order to reset the ritual, he had to actually resuscitate her and bring her back to life.
Yes, yes, and that was done very well, because that would have been that's a difficult thing to actually show and make it seem realistic. Yeah,
Yeah, I know they did that scene really well. I was actually surprised, and I was sitting there going, "God, it would be horrible if you. I mean, if you think about that, I mean, if you were to really do that as a part of your ritual, I mean, it's not realistic. Most people would not be that crazy to even try something like that.
no,
But
no.
if you were, I mean, think about the terror that you'd be in as the magician supervising that,
Oh,
because if you can't resuscitate her, you're fucked.
yeah, but you see how the way they showed him doing that as well. You could see he did it, and he'd been saying his prayers and things, and then he was saying something, and he was pacing up and down, and he was waiting for the time that he needed to give her before he resuscitated her. If you see what I mean. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
like,
and it's an intense scene.
it really is, and again, very, very well done. Very, very well done. Yeah.
And we probably do need to say, I mean, it is a kind of a slow burn movie, but it's intense all the way through. It's kind of strange because it's slow burn, but it's not boring.
No, not at all. And you'll notice there are all sorts of subtle things. You start to see things happening, like throughout the film, which are inexplicable, but they're very subtle things in the background and stuff like that, which is very, very nice the way it does it.
I
Yeah.
think the other thing too is the scene where he had her like strip down and do all that sexual stuff,
Yeah.
it shows that I mean, it shows that he was kind of an asshole. It
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
shows that he was kind of flawed and he's a jerk.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. He's a jerk and he's the real thing at the same time. You know, that
Yeah.
was what was really special about it. You know, I mean, that was what was very good about it, because it's not like that idea about, oh, here is the saint. No, no, this is somebody who can do this operation, and they're real. They're real. That's
And
the thing.
and it's like you said, they're both made for each other because they're both fucking self-absorbed. They're nuts.
And they're both at the end of their tether in different ways, if you see what I mean. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, which is like, and he even says to her at some point. There's a point he says to her. He laughs. He looks at her. He says, "You know, you're so much like me." He says, and she says, "I'm not like you. I'm not like you at all." He says, "You are." He says, "You are. Just look at you. You're just like me. Maybe worse." And she says, "I'm nothing like you. I'm nothing like you." You know, and it's like, but they are.
Yeah.
He actually sees it. He sees it accurately. They are similar, and they do have a lot of things. There's parallels between them, and that's why they were brought together in this ritual. That's why they came together, you know.
Right. Yeah, and she's kind of cold. I mean, she really is kind of a cold character because in the end, well, should we talk about what happens in the end? Do you want to go into that and then we'll talk about it?
Should we do that? Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the thing is that there is a point after the resuscitation scene. She actually sort of like, they have a kind of like a bit of a face off in the kitchen, because obviously she's just been resuscitated, having been drowned by him, and she's obviously stunned. And there's a lot. And he said to her, "I had to do this. I had to do this to rectify it, to rectify the dishonesty, because we have to have it rectified to be able to go forward." So for him, it was just a necessity. And they have a kind of a fight or what have you, and there's an accident with a knife, basically, which injures him seriously. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and at that point, he's basically on the floor and she's with him, and you can see. And what he says then is interesting, because he says, "This is the ritual starting to work. This is my
The
payment.
payment.
This is
Yeah.
my payment for having hurt you." But you can see he's not. He's entirely philosophical about it, you know.
Yeah.
And he is seriously injured, and it's like but it's quite shocking, really, you know. But he's like, and she's like, "Oh my god, what can we do?" And he says, "Well, just get some bandages, you know." And he's very much like that. He's kind of like, this things will work now. This is working.
Yeah, and she's like, "We got to take you to the hospital. We've got to leave." He said, "We can't leave." And he keeps telling her over and over again throughout the movie, "We
Yeah.
can't stop. We can't leave. Don't you get it, you stupid?" You know, that's
Yeah,
basically what.
yeah. And he's like, but you can see there's something actually which is actually very compassionate in him at the same time. He's severe and he's messed up, but there's also, he's kind of understanding at the same time. It's just he's
Yeah, no, it is a very strange. He's like a dichotomy in the character. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah. But it's like he's got to get her to understand, and he knows that she doesn't understand yet. So he's constantly almost like trying to do this, but that things do accelerate after that. Yeah, and
And he gets an infection from the wound, and it's basically slowly killing him. So from the time he gets stabbed, he's basically dying,
yes,
and
yeah.
he gets worse and worse.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, that during that time, when he's just after he's injured and they're sitting there, they actually start to open up to each other, and she tells him the full story about what happened with her child for the first time, and how she was late to pick him up, and he was taken by some other kids, and then he was killed. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and he actually, and she says, "Well, what do you want from this? Because you get something as well." And he just says, "I want invisibility. I want invisibility." He said, and he just like basically says, I just want to disappear. I just want to live my life away from the world, you know." And he also says, "I've waited for you" as well. It's like he's been waiting for her to come. He knew that somebody would come like this, yeah. And he just says, and I remember he says this. He says this line. He says, "I want some quiet before the howl," you know. and it's
Yeah.
like whatever that means, yeah. And so that's the point at which they have each other's stories, and they start to become kind of close in their desperation after that, in a sense, yeah. You
What
know,
I think that means, honestly, what I felt it meant is that he knew he was damned. He
yeah,
knew that he was going to a bad place, and he
yeah.
wanted some quiet and some peace before he had to pay his penance for whatever he had done.
It seemed something like that, didn't it? It seemed
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Now the thing is, after that, you get the next stage, basically, of it when things get really freaky and weird. Yeah,
yeah. And the ritual starts to take effect, and things start to manifest.
yeah. It really does get very, very, very powerful then. Yeah, and there seems to be more of a sort of like a comradeship between them developing, like, and he's becoming weaker, and she's warming to him more as well, and they are actually really getting sort of like, in a sense, quite spiritually close in a way. They're both in this situation together, and they're both kind of desperate,
Yeah.
and
So they
oh
start seeing manifestations, and they start hearing the voice of her son, and obviously
yes,
she knows it's not her son.
that's right. And there's this classic thing, and it shows what is meant to be a classic sort of like pitfall in evocation, where you get a spirit trying to persuade you that it's a loved one, and asking you. I mean, it's normal to step outside the circle. In this case, it's asking her to open the door, please open the door, and of course it's not her son, and she
Yeah.
knows that, but she still can't help talking to him as if if it was her son.
Yeah, and I gotta say, from an audio perspective, I think what the production they did on the boy's voice and the way it was done was just beautiful. It
It,
just sounded really awesome, and
it
it
was.
sounded really haunting.
Yes, yes, it did, didn't it? It did, and it
Yeah,
was everything was so beautifully played. She played the part beautifully as well.
yeah,
It
she
was
was
so
good.
good. She played the part. She played somebody who was very strong, and I think that was part of her coldness. She just had to be strong, and because she was trying to survive in a psychologically impossible situation, having lost her son the way she did.
Yeah,
And
and yeah, but she played a very strong character, but also played her very vulnerable at the same time,
yes,
and that's
yes,
hard to do. It's
yes,
hard to do it believably,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she did both really well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, they kind of like go through this increasingly intense experience, and you see they become closer and closer, and then finally one morning she wakes up and he's dead, basically, and you
Yeah,
see that. And so then you're into the last bit, basically, because she goes and she thinks she's obviously on her own. Then now she's in his world, but she's on her own. You see, she's
and
transitioned.
she doesn't have the knowledge that he has, so
No,
she's
no,
like
no.
freaking out.
And when she goes to find the books, she can't read the books because they're all blacked out. So
Yeah,
it's like everything is. So she's gone from being in a different world to being in. Now she shares his world, but he's gone. You see.
yeah,
And that's when you get the whole thing about like the crossing the circle, but she can't escape. She's brought back to the house, and then she goes through then it's on to the very last bit, yeah, which is where she finds herself basically attacked by all these figures, she's by all these spirits,
yeah.
and again that was quite. I thought that was pretty effective, really. The way they did that, and
And that leads to the last part where she finally sees her angel, and of course, it
yeah,
has the typical Christian sort of ending
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
all that. And it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah, she does.
and
She does. The only thing I thought the angel was good. I thought the angel or demon was really, or Damon was actually is quite. It was an impressive one because it looked weird. It looked like a figure of Athena or something to me.
yeah, I know. But I thought the CG was pretty awesome, actually.
No, I thought it was really good. It was effective, and it looked sort of alien and just. It looked pretty frightening in a way. It was quite awe-inspiring, really. Actually,
Yeah. And then I think it was a great stylistic choice that they, when the angel was talking to her, you could see the angel's mouth move, but you didn't hear any voice.
No,
I
that's
thought
true.
that was a great choice as a stylistic choice as a filmmaker because the legends about the voices of angels are like, well, they're legendary. They're their voices are booming and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
how are you going to recreate that in a believable way?
Yeah.
So it would be much better to have the angel like speaking, but yet nothing coming out of their mouth, but the person hears it.
Yeah. No,
And
absolutely. I thought that was very good. That was very good. And the thing is, when it came to her finally saying what she wanted, yeah, there was that little bit of a twinge in me, which was like, I wish they just phrased it a bit differently, But I understood that this was the last lie she had to cross, which is that the last lie was what she was telling herself, which she was keeping from herself, that who she really wanted revenge against was herself.
yeah,
Because as a mother, she could never forgive herself for having been late for her son and him then getting killed by those kids. So you could
yeah,
see the last thing was that the last lie that she said was basically the one she told herself, that even she didn't really understand because she couldn't face it. And
yeah,
that's why she asked for what she did, yeah? That's why she asked for what she did, which wasn't vengeance. It was something else. Yeah, it was something. Yeah, but you see, so it actually made sense. I wish that they had just phrased it a little bit differently somehow, so it was just a little bit more original than the way that she phrased it. But then she was probably brought up Christian, She was probably brought up Christian. That probably would have been how she would have phrased it. In fact, how these things work, But I could see that was almost like the last lie in a sense, and
yeah.
and so it was really interesting. And then there's the scene of how she, in her own way, honors Solomon, in terms of in
Well,
terms
I would say that that's kind of a generous way of putting it. I thought it
yeah,
was kind of
yeah,
cold
yeah.
and kind of nasty. I think she was still self-absorbed because she
Oh,
basically floats him in a lake and just kind of throws him
sink.
away like a piece of garbage. That's the way I saw
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Mind you, what was she going to do? She couldn't call the police, could she? And it's like, but
No, but it's like, God, man,
put,
there's just
put him in
so
the
many
trunk,
things in
put him
that
in the
movie.
trunk and drive off, But what really it worked poetically though. It worked poetically because to have him ending up in the lake somehow, it worked poetically somehow. And the thing is that, of course, the thing is at the end of the day, he got what he wanted as well. He got invisibility. He disappeared basically. Yeah. So they both actually got what they wanted in a sense, and that again seemed characteristic of magic, because if it's a spiritual kind of magic, rather than just some really kind of like some little spell, it gives you deeply what you need basically, rather than just literally what you ask for, because you generally don't know what you really want in truth. People generally
No,
don't really understand, and they don't understand the consequences. So when you're dealing with something like a daemon, what have you, which knows you better than you could ever know yourself, there is that quality of what is beyond what you understand and know, which means that things don't work out the way you think they will quite, if you know what I mean,
no, they don't. They don't. And sometimes the things you think you want are exactly the opposite of what you want, and that's yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. It can be a mercy that someone knows better than you do.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can definitely say that that's true because I can see how things have worked out in my life where it's like, oh, if I would have went down that road, it probably would have been really, really bad. I'd be in a different place right now than I am. And at the time, the event seemed like it was a good thing, but in the end, you realize, no, I was actually protected from some bad stuff happening.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I understand
Absolutely.
that completely. But the one thing I do want to say, and kind of in closing on this episode, is that they were both characters that were flawed. They both did things that I didn't like, and
Hmm.
things that I actually liked. So I thought it was a very balanced film and very realistic film from an occult perspective. I thought I thought it showed the characters accurately, and I thought it showed the occult accurately as best as it could in a film.
Yes.
Because the rituals weren't actually the Abramelin, or at least it doesn't. Well, a lot of it didn't look like it. They just made up stuff.
No.
But yeah, but the thing is, how are you gonna portray that in a film? It's difficult.
Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're going to portray something with that sort of film craft or stagecraft, you've got to make stuff up. You've got to create something to act as a metaphor, if you see what I mean, a visual metaphor for it.
Yeah, and it has to be a lot more visual as well. So that's one of the reasons for like some of the way they did the layout of the sigils and stuff. They did it so it would
Yeah,
be more visually appealing
and
with
yeah,
colored display and stuff.
yeah, it was very beautiful. Actually, I thought it was very beautiful. It
Yeah.
was, it was good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the thing I would say to anybody who's watching this film is, like I said, there are some important lessons you can get from it. Number one is to be honest with the spirits. Number two, make sure you're serious about what you're doing before you commit to it. I think there are very good occult lessons to come from it. And the other thing is, you don't always get what you want, you get what you deserve.
that's very true. Those are very good points. Actually, very good points. There are genuine things in this film. There really are. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, seriously, after watching that film, I would definitely recommend it to anybody that I work with in the occult to watch it and to not only watch it just for entertainment value, but to watch it and think about the principles behind it. And like I said, that's what makes me believe the person that wrote this or the person that produces this, whoever it was that decided to do this script this way, they have some involvement in the occult because there's just too many spiritual lessons
Yeah.
involved in it. They seem way too knowledgeable about the
I,
occult.
I really agree. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
much so.
Anyway, I think that wraps it up. You have anything you want to add before we go?
No, no, no. That's about it. Love the film, and I really did love the film. It meant a lot to me. Actually, I was very glad that I saw it. Really, very glad.
Yeah,
So
you said you bought the DVD, right? You liked it so much.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. Well, we definitely give it what is it? 5 hoops?
Oh
Give
yeah.
it five.
5 hoofs. Yeah, 5 hoofs. Yep.
It's got the stamp of pig approval.
Yeah,
Nero
absolutely.
and the pig. Yeah. All
Five out of
right.
five.
5 out of 5. Yeah, I agree. So anyway, we'll be doing this every other week or so. We'll be doing an episode about every 2 weeks. So we plan to be doing, what's the next one we plan to review? Hereditary next time. That's our
I think
next
it is. I think it
film.
was Hereditary.
So
Yes.
so if this episode's been good and you like it and you want to know what we think about Hereditary, then come back next time. It'll be about 2 weeks. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.
Bye bye.